In 1947, a large military expedition was sent to the frigid waters of Antarctica, a military expedition whose stated purposes was to test new equipment in the below-freezing temperatures of the region, extend American sovereignty, and to determine if a new base could be established. After amassing the huge force to descend towards the South Pole, they were supposedly interrupted by an otherworldly force. They were then sent back home, never to return again. Today we will be discussing Operation Highjump here on Mystery Archives. The Antarctic Developments Project, otherwise known as Operation Highjump, as codenamed by Chief of Naval Operations Chester W. Nimitz, was an extensive military expedition that began on December 2, 1946. Commanded by Admiral Richard E. Byrd, whom already led an expedition to the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica from 1939 to 1941, the naval group consisted of the icebreaker Northwind, the catapult ship USS Pine Island, the destroyers Brownson, Henderson, and Carrytuck, the aircraft carrier Philippine Sea, the U.S. submarine Sinai, two support vessels Yankee and Merrick, and two tankers Canistid and Capican, all of which in total housed 4,000 men, 20 planes, and helicopters. It took the crew approximately 1 month to reach the start of the icy waters of Antarctica. The main purposes of the mission, according to the government and military officials at the time, was to train personnel and test materials and equipment in the frigid temperatures of Antarctica, to extend American sovereignty over a large portion of land, and to determine whether or not they could establish bases. However, it is believed by many that the U.S. Navy actually went to Antarctica in search of a Nazi underground base. There are theories that suggest that at the end of World War II, a substantial number of Nazi military officials and scientists, around 250,000, fled to Europe to the South Pole with the intent of establishing a base and rebuilding their numbers. It was the Germans that led the 1939 expedition to Antarctica, where they discovered inland thermal heated lakes completely free of ice, along with substantial coal and mineral deposits. These discoveries prompted Heinrich Himmler, a leading member of the Nazi Party and head of the SS, to develop plans for establishing a permanent base that he codenamed Station 211. It has also been said that the Germans believed that there was a race that they referred to as Nordic or Aryan people, possibly extraterrestrials, living in a mysterious world below the ice. And also, according to some theories, it is believed that this race of intelligent beings shared their advanced technologies with the Germans and aided them in building a sustainable colony somewhere underground in the Antarctic. Only weeks after reaching the Arctic Ocean, the expedition was supposed to last 8 months, only in total lasted 8 weeks. An expedition that was seemingly cut short by aircraft not of this world. Not too long after the return of the crew is where things begin to get strange. U.S. journalist Lee Van Atta, who was given permission to accompany the expedition, wrote an article that was featured in the Chilean newspaper El Mercurio that read, Admiral Richard E. Byrd warned today that the United States should adopt measures of protections against the possibility of an invasion by the country by hostile planes coming from the polar regions. Famously, Admiral Byrd also told members of a special congressional investigation committee upon his return from the South Pole, in the case of a new war, the U.S. could be attacked by fighters that are able to fly from one pole to another with incredible speed. Interestingly, not long before he made these comments, the Admiral had recommended defense bases at the North Pole. Admiral Byrd later repeated each of the points of view, resulting from what he described as his personal knowledge gathered at both the North and South Poles, before a news conference held for the International News Service. Admiral Byrd was ordered to remain silent about his experiences by the officials at the Pentagon shortly after the press conference, or so according to his diary, which reads, March 11, 1947. I have just attended a staff meeting at the Pentagon. I have stated fully my discovery and the message from the master. All is duly recorded. The president has been advised. I am now detained for several hours. 6 hours and 39 minutes to be exact. I am interviewed intently by top security forces and a medical team. It was an ordeal. I am placed under strict control via the national security provisions of this United States of America. I am ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have learned on behalf of humanity. Incredible. I am reminded that I am a military man, and I must obey orders. Staying true to his orders, Byrd did not speak about the incident again. He would go on to command Operation Deep Freeze 1 in 1955 to establish permanent Antarctic bases at McMurdo Sound, the Bay of Whales, and the South Pole. This was Byrd's last trip to Antarctica. It would mark the permanent U.S. military presence in the area. Admiral Byrd was involved in multiple expeditions to the Antarctic, and according to the information found within his diary, on his last mission to the South Pole, his plane was taken over by flying saucers and drawn into the hollow earth, where he remained for 3 hours and was engaged by what he described as German-speaking Nordics. The world inside the hollow earth was named Agartha, and he was taken to speak with the leader of the people, who was known as the Master. This Master openly expressed his concerns about the surface world to Byrd as well, saying, "Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was that alarming time that we sent our flying machines, the Flugelrads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity, but now we must. For what you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for your man, mainly that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed." Also, according to the Master, places such as Tibet, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the North Pole all had tunnels leading into Agartha. Not much else is noted in Byrd's diary, and the majority of researchers have written the account off as pure fiction. However, regardless of if the theory is true or not, it's certainly entertaining. It makes one ponder the idea of civilization existing right beneath our feet. As far as Admiral Byrd is concerned, roughly a year after returning home, Byrd passed away at the age of 68 in his sleep, although many people have speculated that Byrd was possibly killed for the information he was said to have known. Another interesting piece to the Operation Highjump puzzle was the release of a Russian documentary titled The Third Reich, Operation UFO, which was allegedly created with the use of declassified KGB documents relating to the incident. The documentary describes the eyewitness account from Lieutenant John Sayerson, a pilot who claimed his ship, the USS Casablanca, was also part of Byrd's task force, and that he witnessed Navy Corsair fighters engaging with unusual saucer-like crafts, attacking the ships in Byrd's fleet. What's odd about this account is the fact that there is no official record of the USS Casablanca ever having been involved in the expedition. However, it would be logical to include an aircraft carrier like the Casablanca in such a mission, as any naval operation of that size wouldn't risk exposure to hostile forces without adequate air defense in place. Sayerson is also quoted as saying this: "The thing shot vertically out of the water at tremendous velocity, as though pursued by the devil, and flew between the masts of the ship at such high speed that the radio antenna oscillated back and forth in its turbulence. An aircraft, a Martin flying boat, from the Carry Tug, that took off a few moments later was struck with an unknown type of ray from the object, and almost instantly crashed into the sea near our vessel. About 10 miles away, the torpedo boat Maddo burst into flames and began to sink. Having personally witnessed this attack by the object that flew out of the sea, all I can say is it was frightening." The release of this documentary spurred interest in the supposed incident further, and it remains to be a topic of interest even today. Many details of what happened in the Antarctic during Operation Highjump are still a mystery, and we truly have very little information to go on, but it certainly makes for some great entertainment nonetheless. Some interesting things worth noting are that Byrd's diary entries have been verified, at least the segments I've mentioned. There is also a supposed second diary detailing more events and details of the Hollow Earth, but I haven't been able to verify if it's legit or not. The concept of a Hollow Earth, and specifically a city called Agartha, has been written about and referenced for hundreds of years by various cultures, and is often tied into the Hollow Earth theory that was conceived by the English scientist Edmund Halley back in the 17th century. So if Byrd didn't experience something tangible, perhaps he had read something and wrote a piece of fiction that took inspiration from the mythos. Who knows? There were also other abduction stories prior to Operation Highjump, where abductees claimed to have been taken to an underground fortress in a cold, icy place and were held hostage by Nordic-looking beings who spoke German and acted German. It's hard to verify these per se, but there are accounts you guys can look up for yourself. And right around the time these first accounts were recorded were right at the end of World War II and right before Operation Highjump began, which certainly makes things interesting. The official estimate of Nazis who escaped Germany at the end of World War II is roughly 250,000 of them, which logistically, although unlikely, would have been a large enough sum to go and settle someplace. It would have provided enough manpower and skill to build pretty much anything, assuming that provisions and materials were still available. So that certainly makes one think as well. In referencing the documentary The Third Reich Operation UFO, I tried to find records of a Lieutenant John Sayerson, who apparently was on the USS Casablanca, but I couldn't find anything on him. And of course, there's no record of the USS Casablanca as ever being part of either operations mentioned either. However, the USS Pine Island, which definitely took part in Operation Highjump, was struck from the Naval Register on an unknown date either during or after Operation Highjump, and there's no record of what happened to it. Like, we're talking a 640-foot massive ship was just apparently gone. There's other instances with this happening surrounding Arctic research vessels as well, so that definitely makes you think for sure. But all around, I have to say these intertwining conspiracies have always fascinated me, so I figured I would share them with you guys. I can't say for sure whether or not any of this stuff happened, but there's certainly some head-scratching moments to be had. So make sure to let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe with the bell so that you never miss a new upload. I really appreciate the support. We're getting super close to the partner program every day, and I can't tell you how much that blows my mind. So thank you guys so much. This has been Cody here at Mystery Archives. And again, thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a wonderful day.